You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely. Hello. Good morning. Welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. It is, oh my goodness, it is January 5th, 2023, and we are back with the first news show of 2023. It's pretty exciting. And we are live with the news hawks, Glenn Prentice and myself, Cindy Howell. We are live from the Legacy420.com news desk, and we are live on networks like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Boxcast locations such as the Roku TV and paceradio.net. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning. Well said.
Oh, and look, there was no lag. Yay! Okay, we might have to just keep Al in the room just to make sure that lag doesn't come back. So we apologize for being late. We had a few technical difficulties. Glenn is coming to us from the beautiful country of Costa Rica, and we're just kind of working out his internet down there and making sure that he can keep up, because we had some lag when we were first starting.
Seems to be working right now. Fingers crossed.
It seems to be going well right now, which is really, really awesome. Way better than what it was doing 15 minutes ago. So we're gonna head right into the first story. We are heading over to StratCan, and we are looking at Health Canada commissioning research to compare the effects of novel cannabinoids.
Health Canada confirms that it is looking into the effects of different cannabinoids to create equivalency amounts to Delta-9 THC. The federal regulator plans on collaborating with provinces and territories on the issue, and will continue research and surveillance data gathering and analysis to support possible future regulatory changes. According to a statement shared with StratCan, the results of the project are expected during the 2023 calendar year.
The statement comes after two of Canada's biggest cannabis markets, Ontario and BC, announced that they will be pausing approval of any new Delta-8 THC products pending guidance from Health Canada. The research will include different cannabinoids, including Delta-8. In order to reduce risks associated with accidental consumption and overconsumption, the Federal Cannabis Act and regulations set limits of 10 milligrams per package for Delta-9 THC in edibles, or 1,000 milligram for extracts and topicals, but no such limit exists for non-Delta-9 products.
While there are currently no similar legal requirements for other intoxicating cannabinoids like Delta-8 THC, Health Canada strongly recommends that the total amount of intoxicating cannabinoids should not exceed the regulatory limits set for Delta-9 THC, and that testing and accurate descriptions of intoxicating cannabinoid content be clearly indicated on product labels. A senior media relations advisor with Health Canada shared via email. Delta-8 THC is an intoxicating cannabinoid, continued the email, and one of the many cannabinoids found in a product naturally by the cannabis plant. However, Delta-8 THC is not naturally found in significant amounts in the plant. As such, Delta-8 THC is typically manufactured from cannabinoid CBD by a licensed cannabis processor.
Cannabis products containing Delta-8 THC have potential health and safety risks that may be similar to Delta-9 THC, some of which can be serious or life-threatening. Products containing high levels of Delta-8 THC have little to no history of use, so the scientific and medical understanding of their biological effects and health risks is still developing. Health Canada is closely monitoring the emergence of products containing high levels of Delta-8 THC, as well as products that may contain high levels of other novel intoxicating cannabinoids in the Canadian marketplace. Health Canada is currently commissioning the preliminary research projects in rodents to begin to compare the psychoactive effect of various cannabinoids other than Delta-9 THC. This will help further inform the intoxication equivalence of these non-Delta-9 THC to Delta 9 THC. So basically the Delta 8 is, I think, what they're really looking at. The data generated by this and additional potential projects on the topic could help inform public education and awareness efforts, potential risk assessments, as well any policies or regulations concerning these substances. The results of this initial pilot project are expected during the 2023 calendar year.
Delta 8 THC products made a small splash in the Canadian market in 2022, with a handful of companies offering products like gummies, beverages, and vape pens. Speaking with several retailers in Canada, sales of these products appear relatively low, although there seems to be an interest in both the novelty of the cannabinoid, as well as the fact that they provide a way to provide consumers with more THC per edible than a typical Delta 9 THC edible. Steve Schnarr, the manager of This Is Cannabis, with 2 locations in BC, says his store saw some initial demand, but given there are only a few products, he suspects they get lost in the high volume shuffle of products on their shelves.
It was interesting when they came in because it was one of the first products to go past 10 milligrams, he says. We just had, I think, 1 beverage and 1 set of gummies. They haven't moved that well, I would say. I don't think they've been too popular. Now, we did a story, and I believe Alan Kelly did a story last year, that we followed, or we heard about a young person eating this Delta 8 edible, and it didn't fare too well for the very young person. But it wasn't Delta 9, so it wasn't cannabis THC, it was CBD THC. And we don't have enough research, and it scares me when we see this happening, right? Shota, a manager at Giggles Cannabis with 2 locations in Ontario, says he thinks the lack of popularity and is at least partially due to the fact many consumers still don't know about it. Although he says he was hesitant to bring in the product because of some of the stories and uncertainty from the U.S. market. Their initial small shipment, less than 20 in December, sold out quickly.
I don't think the education is there yet in the market, says Shota. I think producers need to do a lot more education, not only for consumers, but for sellers. They never even told us it was available. I would say our customers who tried it liked it. We also warn everyone that takes it that this is way more potent than normal THC. Michael Kestrel, who's the executive chairman of Dynalo, a cannabis producer located in Alberta that specializes in cannabis edibles and beverages, is one of the companies offering Delta 8 THC products.
Okay, I have to go back up here. They never told us it was available.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the lack of education that they are giving to the bud tenders in the legal market is absolutely astounding. I mean, and I found this every time I've been in Ontario. I've gone in, well, not every time and not every store, but a lot of the stores I went into in Toronto, I would walk in and I'd be looking for a specific product, and the employees had no idea what I was talking about.
Yep.
And it wasn't that they didn't know what butter or shatter or concentrates were. I walked in and I said, I'm looking for this specific brand, and they had absolutely no clue. Like, working retail and having no clue to what you're selling, it blows me away. And just there it is again, and it caught my eye, and caught my ear really, and I had to point it out. The issue I think that we're facing here in Canada is that the Delta 8 category here is being examined unfairly under the lens of what's happening in unregulated markets, very specifically the US. We understand regulators and provincial distributors are looking for more understanding, and we think it is important to have a greater understanding of what's happening. Their Delta 8 soft chews are available in packs of 10 with 10 milligrams of Delta 8 THC and 1 milligram of Delta 9 THC per piece. So you're getting 100 milligrams of Delta 8 and 10 milligrams of Delta 9. The company has sold more than 50,000 units so far of this product, primarily in markets like Ontario. I know one person, she had some, I think it was dabbable Delta 8.
Yeah.
And, and she is a heavy user, uses it for medicine. Like, I mean, smokes quite a bit, et cetera, like more than a gram of concentrates a day. She took 1 dab of the Delta 8 and she ended up with a migraine for 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
It seems like they want the producers to start educating them, but the producers really don't know what they're selling. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And despite these sales, the Delta 8 products are only a small portion of their full product menu. So the policy shift isn't a big concern for the company, says Kestrel. However, he does think that some of the concern relating to the unrelated U.S. market is potentially unwarranted. That said, he also notes the company understands the government's cautious approach.
Yeah, we're pleased that everyone is taking a measured approach as everyone gets up to speed from an education perspective and seeing what the actual experience is with the product in the market. The policy change does impact the company, though, since they can currently not sell into two of the largest cannabis markets in Canada, especially when these are all products that have gone through the federal and provincial processes for new cannabis products.
The impact on us is twofold, explains Kestrel. One, it contains an avenue for future growth, and we've also got commitments out there to purchase for purchase of products. And we have Delta 8 inventory and purchased bags we have in inventory. So from that standpoint, it's a little disappointing. We don't try to sneak anything by anybody. We went through the NNCP process. We went through provincial listing processes, and everyone's interpretation is that nothing here is in contravention of any regulations, and it's a decision made to sideline it. Health Canada says it will continue to monitor the effects and risk of all cannabis products, including products with high levels of Delta 8 THC, and will take appropriate actions if needed. Although BC and Ontario are currently listing any new products of this kind, Health Canada is not. They're not currently listing any new products. Sorry. Health Canada is not currently said they will be implementing any similar policy change nationwide.
Sounds
like they should probably study this. Sorry, they should have studied this before they put it out into the market.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, with this person that I used to talk to all the time, when she ended up with a severe migraine for 2 days after one dab of this Delta 8, I was just like, yeah, you know what? I never ever want to try it. And I haven't tried it yet. No, I just want to point out that we've got a viewer saying hello. So hi, Judy. It's nice to see you here.
Hola.
Yeah, no, I haven't tried it myself because when I watched what happened to this person, it really turned me off. And then you and I did that story. And so did Alan Kelly when we followed that kid that got very, very ill. I think they passed away after eating a small amount of Delta 8. And it kind of really, the whole scenario scared me until we do some more research.
Mm-hmm. Kind of sounds like the fentanyl scare. You know, they're making something so powerful that you're not used to it.
Yeah. Now, look, I went and closed the window when I had it open, and I shouldn't have done that because it's just me pressing buttons. And I pressed one too many, but I've got it back now. So on to our next story. We're heading over to Mugglehead Magazine. I love this publication. Canopy Growth completes divestiture of Tweed and Tokyo Smoke retail operations.
Canopy Growth Corporation no longer has any retail operations in Canada under its Tokyo Smoke or Tweed banners. On Tuesday, the cannabis producer said it has closed the transactions with OEG Retail Cannabis and 420 Investments Ltd. To divest its retail operations in Canada, but still owns all of Tweed's products.
OEGRC has acquired ownership of 23 Tokyo Smoke and Tweed store locations across Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Newfoundland and Labrador. Under the agreement, the Tokyo Smoke brand has been transferred to OEGRC, and all Tweed stores will be rebranded.
The agreement between Canopy and OEGRC, where OEGRC would license the Tokyo Smoke brand in Ontario, has finished. We are excited to take this important next step in the expansion of OEG Retail Cannabis and the Tokyo Smoke brand across Canada. OEG CEO Jürgen Schreiber said.
The close of this acquisition marks the start of something special for the retail cannabis industry, and we're looking forward to bringing our award-winning customer experience, product quality, and safety to more Canadians in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Newfoundland and Labrador. 420, a licensed cannabis retailer, also acquired 5 of the company's corporate stores in Alberta.
The divestiture of our Canadian retail business marks an important step forward on our path to profitability and furthers Canopy Growth's focus on generating revenue growth in the Canadian market. Canopy CEO David Klein said, these retail locations will continue operating under the experienced leadership of OERGC and 420, under their respective retail brands to serve Canadian consumers with high-quality in-store experiences.
Nice. And the company's stock went up 7%. So there you go.
That's to hear a story where the stock goes up when we get positive news. We always read these to get positive news, and it goes down.
That's right. It's weird. But yeah, I mean, Tweed is still around, but they're closing down the stores. I'm not necessarily sad about that.
I don't know much about Tweed itself.
They're one of the monopolies. You know, they kind of took over everything. You know, they're not legacy owned. They're not craft. They're not. Yeah. I could go on, but I won't. Yeah. So we'll just say that, you know, I'm pleased that Tweed is going away. But you know, maybe some people are and some people aren't. But on to Mugglehead Magazine and story number 3. I was trying to look for like a nice segue there, and it just didn't come up. So I'm just going to move forward. Village Farms ships its Pure Sunfarms cannabis to Israel.
Village Farms International Incorporated has expanded its international presence and will start shipping its Pure Sunfarms cannabis to Israel. On Tuesday, the vegetable and cannabis producer announced that patients in Israel will now have access to its British Columbia-grown Pure Sunfarms cannabis cultivars after signing an exclusive 3-year agreement with Dr. Sumilov Importing and Marketing Limited, which does business as Better Pharma.
Better Pharma was founded in the early 90s as an importer of pharmaceuticals and medical products. It is the exclusive distributor of Walada, a leading natural organic cosmetics brand, and other medical products such as, oh my God, I'm not even going to try to pronounce them, Plantur, such as these wonderful products here. Sales are expected to begin later this month, and the first cultivars to be offered will be Pink Kush, Jet Fuel Gelato, and Black Cherry Punch. Ooh,
the flavors sound great. We are proud and privileged to partner exclusively with Better Pharma for the significant medical cannabis opportunity in Israel, and are confident that Pure Sunfarms' unique everyday premium positioning, which has proven so successful in Canada and Australia, will be differentiated in the Israeli market and well received by patients. The agreement is the first time Pure Sunfarms makes its way to consumers abroad.
We're confident that Better Pharma, an organization that shares our belief in brand-led consumer approach, will help patients in Israel come to know and appreciate Pure Sunfarms' high-quality BC-grown strains as much as Canadians have. Pure Sunfarms CEO Mandesh Doshanj said in a statement. The company plans to expand internationally to other markets such as Australia and launch in the German medical market. Right on.
Better Pharma CEO Ram Shamalov said that the company is confident about leveraging its knowledge and expertise in international brand management for Pure Sunfarms to become one of the leading medical cannabis brands in Israel. We are looking forward to delivering Pure Sunfarms' unique and differentiated everyday premium brand position to Israel medical patients and pharmacists, Shamalov said.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about Australia, but I mean, it's nice to see that they're planning on moving down there. Australia has, you know, I know a few people down there that are in the whole cannabis industry, and they're activists, and you know, the cannabis that I see coming in pictures from these folks is just absolutely terrible.
Wow.
Yeah. And Canada getting out there and leading the way with RBC grown cannabis, I think, is fantastic.
It is.
It is. We are heading down over the border now. Pardon me for my coughing. And we are going to MJ Biz Daily and going down to New York. New York's adult use cannabis market faces hurdles after long-awaited sales launch.
New York, it fell to Chris Alexander, the executive director of New York's Office of Cannabis Management, to personally usher in the era of legal adult use marijuana or cannabis sales in the state December 29th. But it will take more than Alexander and more than the $95 cash he paid for an eighth of an ounce. An eighth of an ounce of New York grown cannabis and a 100 milligram package of well-and flavored THC gummies for New York's legal market to fulfill its lofty social justice promise and its multi-billion-dollar potential. $95 for 1/8 of an ounce.
Well, he got 100 milligrams of gummies too, but.
Well, that's included in that. Okay. That's still $95.
3.5 grams and 100 milligrams, which is 1/10 of a gram. Well, it's 1 gram. So basically the equivalent to 4.5 grams of dried cannabis for $95.
Wow. That's a ripoff.
It's really gross. Yeah. Alexander's ceremonial first purchase of recreational cannabis came amid the nation's most audacious illicit cannabis market and a host of other uncertainties. It's unclear, for example, when the next legal adult use retail operator will open its doors in New York State or deliver recreational product to a consumer's front door.
And dozens of entrepreneurs are on the sidelines awaiting and hoping for regulatory approval to begin operations. We're going to keep working as fast as we can to get more stores operational so New York consumers across the state can experience the sun-grown cannabis products made by the experienced family farmers in New York, said Office of Cannabis Management spokesperson Aaron Gittelman, who acknowledged that one adult use store isn't adequate and that it's still not clear when the next operation will open or where it will be located.
Yeah, one store for all of New York. After a flurry of impassioned speeches from dignitaries such as State Senator Liz Kruger and co-author of New York's 2021 legalization measure, it was Alexander who enjoyed the honor of being the first customer to ring up the initial purchase and the first legal adult use store in the state to open for business. Housing Works Cannabis Company, a subsidiary of New York City nonprofit Housing Works in the Village in Lower Manhattan, which would open for the public a few hours later on December 29th. That met state officials' self-imposed deadline to ring up the first adult use sales before the end of the year.
However, one operational shop is far below Governor Kathy Hochul's promise of 20 operating stores in New York State before the start of 2023. A missed goal that prompted some public snickering across the Hudson River in New Jersey, where sales began at about 12 locations in April 21, 2022. With no clear word from the state as to when or where the next shop will open and whether they will be delivery services or storefronts or whether they'll be run by other nonprofits or individuals impacted by the war on drugs, New York's legal program opened with more questions than answers.
But that was still enough to leave both Housing Works as well as the OCM overjoyed, as spokespeople for both organizations told MJ Biz Daily via email on Tuesday. The lines around the block and happy faces of customers leaving Housing Works Cannabis Dispensary affirms what we've known for months. New Yorkers are sophisticated consumers excited about regulated, reliable, and trustworthy cannabis products, Giltman said. But you need more than one store. New York is a very, very, very massively large city. And like they have plans to put 20 in there, but still 20. Like, I mean, you might as well just have the one. Like, I mean, you should have aimed for 200 to start with in a city as large as New York. I mean, look at Toronto and what they have, 1,000. Yep. And New York is like, we want 20. Come on, guys.
We did a story about that nonprofit, and I really, really like that one. But like you said, that's only one.
Yeah, it's one. And for a city as large as New York, they need, I think they should have aimed at having the 20 open by the end of the year, but then having 200 open by the first quarter of 2023.
Yep.
You know, and there's loads of people there that want to do it.
For sure there is. More than 500 customers passed through Housing Works doors in a little less than 4 hours on the first day, according to a statement from Sasha Nutgent, the store's retail manager. But with only a few products available at Housing Works and with New York's robust illicit market still doing a brazen banner business, mere steps from where the crowd queued to be let in when the general sales began at 4:20 p.m. Nice. ET, it's clear the state still has a lot of work to do to fulfill its potential as one of the biggest cannabis markets in the country, as well as its own oft-repeated promises to the public that this market will also be the country's most equitable.
It remains unclear which one will come first: more legal retail capacity, more enforcement for the hordes of unregulated cannabis operators that have operated largely unimpaired for the past year. What was clear was both will be necessary for New York to avoid the problems that other states and make good on its ambitious goals it set after the March 2021 passage of its Cannabis Regulation and Taxation Act.
Even though we legalized, we didn't say just open up the market. That's not what we did, Alexander told MJ Biz Daily shortly after he flashed his historic purchase, a $65 jar of banana runts and a $30 package of watermelon-flavored THC gummies. to a bank of TV cameras and still photographers for a second time, as a slowly swelling line of members of the public awaited their turn inside. After dozens of cease and desist letters and a handful of raids of unlicensed operations involving New York City Sheriff and police, Alexander did promise more enforcement and would be coming for the city's illicit cannabis market, where cannabis is openly sold out of unlicensed food trucks and unlicensed storefronts, as well as online and via delivery services advertised throughout the city via QR codes, pasted on stickers, on traffic signs, and on subway.
Mm-hmm. So, $65 for that 3.5 grams. Just so you know, I did the math and I had to use my calculator just to make sure. $18.57 a gram.
Wow. Wow.
That better be the best Banana Runs cannabis ever. ever.
I highly doubt it.
Me too. I'm and I really shouldn't be judging because I'm basing it on what we got when we first legalized here, which was really dry, really bad burning, really full of chemicals, cannabis, right? Like it was terrible.
Crap. That's what I call it.
Yeah, we've come a long way, and that's why the Tweeds and the Canopies are starting to go away, because we have the craft cannabis growers that are joining the legal fight, right? Like they're becoming legal, they're getting licensed, they're doing their thing. So we have things like Ghost Drops or Miscue, or like these smaller companies, these smaller craft companies that are going in our stores. And I'm imagining, and I could be wrong, that New York is kind of going through the same thing. Like what they're first putting out there is not going to be great. Give it a year, it might be better.
Yep.
So after dozens of cease and desist letters and a handful of raids of unlicensed operations involving New York Sheriff and police, Alexander did promise more enforcement would be coming for the city's illicit market, where cannabis is openly sold out of unlicensed food trucks. And we've already read this one. We've seized millions of dollars of product already. He said, that's what we're going to keep doing. The more dispensaries we open, as well as those other enforcement actions, is what's going to create the push for folks to transition from the illicit to the regulated market, Alexander added.
Neither state officials nor representatives from the housing works would release initial sales figures, and those figures won't be available until more retailers are open for business. As for when that will be, Alexander added, I don't have a clear time frame on that.
Neither New York City Mayor Eric Adams nor Horkel were present at the Housing Works Cannabis Co. grand opening. New York officials promised that the first 200 adult use stores to open in the state would all be social equity applicants, including some so-called turnkey operations leased and built out by the state.
Wow. State officials announced only on December 7th the signing of the first lease for a turnkey conditional adult use retail dispensary, which is called CARD license, at a location near the Apollo Theater in Harlem. It's not known when that store will open. The state issued the first 36 retail licenses only in November, though Housing Works is the only one that's opened.
The story does go on for a few more paragraphs, but I think we've got the basic gist of it. They do want to open. They did mention here when we were reading, they were looking at opening. Oh, I scrolled up and I apologize. 200, which is the number that I said. New York officials promised that the first 200 stores are going to be socially equity. And you asked about that earlier. You mentioned that. So here's hoping that they do that, and here's hoping that they get them out fast, because this is New York State. It is, and New York City is in the middle of it, and it's just insanely busy down there. There's so many people, and one store or 20 stores just really isn't going to do it.
I really do love, though, that they're pushing the social equity part of it. It might take a little bit longer, but when we opened up here, we didn't have any of that, and mostly it was corporations and people with money that got in there. Yep,
and it took up until the last year and a half, really, for the craft growers to get their licenses and get in there, and that's really, really nice to see. Yep. But that brings us up to break time. So it's time to hear from our sponsors and for us to take a break. You're watching the Psychedelics and Cannabis Education News here on paceradio.net and CBG TV.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to save the VCBC at gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you watching television on Roku, Fire, maybe an Apple TV or even Chromecast? If you are, then download the Boxcast app and search for CBG TV.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Welcome back, and you're watching the Psychedelics and Cannabis Education News, your psychedelics and cannabis educational news source here on the Pace Radio Network, CBG TV, and the Boxcast app found on your Roku or Fire TV. And we're back, and I did not hit buttons while we were gone to prepare the next story because I was sitting here, watching the commercials, but that's okay. It only takes me a couple seconds to hit the buttons, and we're off to the first story of the second half, which is coming to us from the Fresh Toast. Cannabis Industry Faces a Sobering 2023.
There are reasons for hope, though. New and emerging adult-use markets in the Northeast region as well as Florida medical market should show considerable growth next year. Without much meaningful development concerning legalization efforts in 2022, many sobering themes likely will carry over into 2023.
Layoffs will persist, and continued price compression and competition from the illicit channels will drive brand share consolidation in mature markets. West Coast legacy operators will continue to be bogged down by legislative limbo, a lack of access to banking services, and an incredibly competitive gray market unbound by onerous tax regulations, which in turn will lead to more operators fleeing the troubled market. Additionally, companies will shift towards tighter capital management and budgeting as cash becomes more expensive and harder to grab.
Painfully, we will see more cannabis businesses fail, said Poseidon Asset Management Managing Director Patrick Ria. This culling will thin the competitive herd and hand more power to the established incumbents, increasingly MSOs, with their lower cost of capital and growing footprint of assets and operations. There are reasons for hope, though.
Oh, I didn't even see that little paragraph. Now, new and emerging adult use markets in the northern region, as well as the Florida medical market, should show considerable growth next year. That's bolstered by increasing market access. Half of the U.S. population over the age of 21 now have access or live in a state that has adult use legal, with more than half recorded. As past 6 months consumers, according to the BDSA analyst Brendan Mitchell Cheesebro.
Even though there's still these problems with price compression, even though there's still regulatory issues, people are waiting for SAFE Act to pass, people waiting for 280E reform. There's still a lot of reasons that we think that there's going to be a huge growth in a lot of these markets, he said. Many in the industry remain bullish on Florida, especially as it gears up for a full funded adult use ballot initiative pushed by 2024. BDSA believes that Florida will be the biggest contributor to sales growth nationally through 2026, with $2.7 billion in projected medical use sales next year.
New York could also emerge as one of the biggest growth opportunities in 2023, though the state's ability to get more adult use retail stores up and running will be the greatest indicator of progress, as looming sticker shock awaits legal enterprise. In our opinion, that's the thing that would be effectively cut. That's the thing that would effectively cut into the illicit market the most. And that's why some markets that have been up and running for a few years are still having problems with the gray market.
In the Midwest, Missouri shows for MSOs and big vertical out-of-state operators. Friendly state taxes, good product split backed by a maturing retail footprint and a smooth compliance process could make the difference in the show me state. Additionally, cross-border traffic with Arkansas and Kansas, which have fallen short on their own legalization efforts, could beef up sales in the new market, which is expected to launch in February.
Cy Scott, who's the CEO of cannabis data firm Headset, expects Missouri's adult use rollout to put additional pressure on the Illinois market to accelerate license grants, given the number of already licensed medical dispensaries converting to adult use locations. If the rollout is successful, the BDSA predicts around $270 million to $280 million in adult use sales in 2023. Factoring in the maturing medical market, Missouri could very well reach $730 million in total legal sales.
And New York could also see additional normalization from consumption lounges and bigger retail shifts to raise foot traffic and basket size, Michael Cheesebro said. Dispensaries could begin to move away from the deli layout in favor of a more open retail floor plan similar to Apple stores. The BDSA analyst pointed to places like Planet 13, where employees are on the floor to assist shoppers, yet customers can move and browse around and check out display cases on their own.
I think that's going to be a big shift when we're talking about storefront retail, Michael Cheesebro said. I think that a lot of people recognize that it's more approachable, especially for newer customers. Still, convenience is king in the industry, which should see a stronger push towards direct consumer sales utilizing delivery and curbside pickup services.
The missing component is capital. Morgan Praxha, co-founder and managing partner of Poseidon Asset Management, said this year is poised to be the most bifurcated trajectories we have seen in the legal cannabis industry. Praxia predicts a year full of the most defaults, wind downs, and state-level bankruptcies in the legal cannabis industry has ever seen, especially with the sobering lull in meaningful federal banking legislation.
I agree. We see this cycle finally coming to a head as the tight capital markets have persisted for so long, combined with onerous cannabis taxes, deflationary cannabis prices, and inflationary costs, he said. The cycle was well on its way, and COVID interrupted it, like many other industries. We think most of this stress is within smaller companies. However, Paxa also sees a healthy return of M&A for many areas of cannabis, too, such as operators, technologies, hydroponics. We see this driven by companies continuing to seek operating efficiencies, scale, and stronger competitive footprints.
And we see that inward digestion period running its course, and companies are getting back on offense, he said. We also wouldn't rule out activity, not likely M&A activity per se, with mainstream strategies and like alcohol and tobacco. Meaningful return to equity capital flows after a long protracted bear market is also possible, while benefiting the largest companies Yeah, of course. First, due to lower perceived risk.
Big picture, we know more now than ever about how to run a successful legal cannabis company. There are more experienced operators than ever. There are more legal stores than ever, Ray noted. The missing component is capital.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Safe Banking Act would go a long way in helping that.
Yeah, the capital would all of a sudden appear.
Yeah, because people would want to invest in it.
Yep.
And right now they're scared to.
And they can't borrow from banks, so there's no capital, no loaning.
No, the banks won't have anything to do with it right now. So
yeah,
it's you either have your own money or you're basically SOL.
Yep.
Yeah. Heading over to the psychedelic spotlight, New York lawmakers file a bill to legalize natural psychedelics.
The measure would legalize the use of some natural plant or fungus-based hallucinogens, including DMT, ibogaine, mescaline, psilocybin, and psilocin, recategorize them and eliminate their status as prohibited substances. As the psychedelic revolution continues to spread across the U.S., New York lawmakers have thrown their hat in the ring and pre-filed a bill aiming to legalize certain natural psychedelics. It's clear that legal reform is gaining ground when it comes to taking mushrooms out of the shadows and into mainstream awareness.
Amen. The bill seeks to amend some of the current laws in order to legalize natural plant or fungus-based hallucinogens for adults. These changes would affect the penal law, public health law, labor law, and vehicle and traffic regulations. If passed, this would be one of the first major breakthroughs in 2023 regarding psychedelics legalization in the U.S. Amen.
And the new bill will be officially introduced this week would legalize adult possession and use of certain natural plant or fungus-based hallucinogens, grant certain protections for individuals lawfully using such hallucinogens, remove such hallucinogens from the list of Schedule I controlled substances, and make related provisions.
Yes, all makes me smile. This proposal, backed by the Assembly members Linda Rosenthal, Joanne Simon, and Karen's Rains, would modify existing state laws to allow individuals aged 21 or older to the right to possess, use, grow, manufacture, analyze, give away as a gift, exchange, or share certain naturally occurring hallucinogenic plants and fungi. The measure would legalize the use of some natural plant or fungus-based hallucinogens, including DMT, ibogaine, mescaline, psilocybin, psilocin, which is, the active part of psilocybin, recategorize them and eliminate their status as prohibited substances. I'm just so excited.
Additionally, the proposed law would grant people the right to provide or receive psychedelic services for either remuneration or not, and also enable religious organizations to utilize ethnogens ceremonially. To prevent any conflicts of interest, state and local law enforcement would be barred from assisting the federal government enforcing laws surrounding controlled substances for activities that are legitimized by the state, but they're still federally illegal, and that's always the problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're going through with cannabis now, but it's a step in the right direction is still a step in the right direction. And I for one am a little bit different. A lot of activists. I'll take a moment and I'll celebrate that before pushing forward to fight for more, which we definitely should, we definitely will. But I mean, this is something else that there's going to be another version of the Safe Banking Act that'll eventually come along to go with this, because people are going to be too scared to invest and do and the whole bit, right? They explained to us, if we go down further, section 223.10 of this measure puts several safeguards in place to protect individuals. There's 6 of them. Even if natural plant or fungi-based hallucinogens as allowed by the stipulation are illegal under federal law, this will not prevent any contract from being enforced. Professional or occupational license holders who use naturally occurring plant and fungi-based hallucinogens will be exempt from professional discipline and loss of their credentials. These are important things to be putting in place, right?
I wonder, though, that they're going to protect them in their state. That does not protect them in any other state, and that's a big problem. So if a doctor gives you a prescription for this and then decides to move to Florida, they arrest him in Florida for doing the same thing.
Well, the thing is, if he moves to Florida in the States, if he's in Missouri right? And he's legal, or in New York in this case, and he's legal to practice in New York. If he moves to Florida, he can't just up and start giving prescriptions. He has to get relicensed in Florida.
Yeah, and they would have to
if
pass
he
the
moves
same
from
law.
New York to Florida, he's no longer a therapist or a doctor. You have to get relicensed. It's the same as a lawyer who is in New York has to get relicensed. Now, mind you, they don't have to go through school again, but they have to go write an exam and get relicensed. So, you know, if he's going to move to Florida, then he's going to have to understand he can't make that prescription.
Yeah, it's too much. It's too much for me. I think they would just legalize it federally.
Which is exactly what I was saying. I mean, like, let's celebrate the small steps, because if we don't celebrate the small steps, why bother going forward to the big steps? You know, celebrate the small steps and take a look at how they're going to help us get there in the future. Yeah.
And number 3. Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Mental health, substance use disorder, or behavioral health services cannot be refused based on the inclusion of natural plant or fungus-based hallucinogen services simply because these substances are illegal according to federal law. However, insurance providers also have no obligation to fund for costs associated with natural plant or fungus-based hallucinogens. Number 4, the measure legally authorizes patients to use the above-mentioned natural plant medicine, and these substances will not be considered illicit or disqualify patients from receiving medical treatment or insurance coverage.
5, employers would be prohibited from taking any adverse action against an employee who lawfully consumes psychedelics while off duty. Under number 6, under this new bill, New York's localities are prohibited from passing legislation criminalizing psychedelics. However, they can create laws and regulations that relate directly to natural plant or fungi-based hallucinogens in order to further the bill.
Yeah. The presentation of the new bill is a sign that 2023 will be a breakthrough year in psychedelics reform, in part due to the progress made by decriminalization movements across America and voter support for psilocybin therapy in Oregon. Colorado recently became the second state to decriminalize psychedelics and legalize psilocybin therapy, a groundbreaking accomplishment that serves as evidence of the power of change at the state level. This incredible advancement was largely made possible by tireless and courageous activists who have fought for the drug reform throughout our nation. With these developments, it looks like psychedelic use may soon become more socially acceptable than ever before.
I live in a bubble because, most of the people, 90% of the people I talk to are in the psychedelic and or cannabis lifestyle or industry or whatever. So, and the few people that I know that aren't are very accepting, because I'm not quiet about what I do. And when I run off to Vancouver to take iboga and DMT, and the people in my life, family and friends that were against cannabis and unsure about all this are very open to learning. So from what I see, it's actually becoming more accepted faster than what people say, but that's just because I live in my little bubble, right?
Yeah. At least it's moving forward, like you said, one step at a time.
It is. And I think this is a very exciting step. I'm super excited to see how it grows. There are 2 states that have this done. New York is looking to be the 3rd, and it's just going to keep going and growing. And, I'm excited to see that happening here in Canada as well. And it all will. And we're going to head over to marijuana moment. The Veterans Affairs report says psilocybin and MDMA show therapeutic promise for veterans' mental health conditions.
The U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs has concluded that psychedelics like MDMA and psilocybin show promise in the treatment of certain mental health conditions like post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, and severe depression. In a recent report from VA's Evidence Synthesis Program, officials said that their review of more than 2,500 potentially relevant articles turned up 38 key studies that back the therapeutic potential of psychedelics.
Yeah, the report that MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD may improve symptoms and lead to remission for some individuals in the short term, while psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy for depression also shows some promise. The VA caveated, however, the evidence is very preliminary, and several critical gaps need to be addressed by future research.
The report further demonstrated that psilocybin therapy may reduce heavy drinking days and average daily alcohol consumption among adults with alcohol use disorder. Additionally, the department's researchers cast doubts on the idea that the psychedelic ibogaine can treat opioid-related withdrawal symptoms.
Okay. Well, let me tell you from personal experience, I have been off opiates for 15 years when I found iboga, and I was still going through withdrawal symptoms, even using cannabis and mushrooms, and ibogaine stripped them. It stripped every single withdrawal symptom I had. It was gone, 100% gone. Amazing.
Wow, and their researchers are casting doubt on that.
No, I am walking, talking proof that boom. Like, I mean, after my first dance with iboga, I haven't had a severe craving for opiates yet. Knock on wood.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Critical gaps to address in future research include whether treatment effects vary according to patient characteristics and disease severity, and whether benefits are durable over time. Almost 2 years later, and I still haven't craved anything. The report, dated October and posted online last month, says the feasibility of implementing intensive psychotherapy protocols in real-world settings is another critical gap, as is determining how psychedelic treatments could fit into current standard of care and usual care pathways. With respect of MDMA and psilocybin, which have been designated as breakthrough therapies by the Food and Drug Administration, the Veterans Affairs ESP supported findings about the substance's therapeutic potential.
MDMA-assisted psychotherapy, or for PTSD, has been the most extensively studied therapeutic intervention involving psychedelics, it said. Similarly, psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy for depression shows some promise. Psychedelics and psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy have been proposed as novel treatments for adults with mental health and substance use disorders, based on the suspicion that supposition that intentional use of psychedelics over a limited period can disrupt problematic thought patterns, facilitate psychotherapy, and potentially lead to behavior change. New treatment options are needed given the limitation of existing therapies.
Mm-hmm. The division empathized that research into the medical value of psychedelics is still in an early phase of development, and many gaps in the evidence exist. That's only because they're only looking at their stuff. They're not looking at history and unofficial studies. Other critical gaps in the evidence include whether psychedelic treatment protocols are reproducible and scalable in real-world settings, and whether the benefits of discontinuing mental health medications to undergo psychedelic treatments outweigh the risks. Oh boy, do they ever. In addition to addressing these gaps, areas for future research include study of veterans with combat-related trauma and study more of diverse populations, particularly with respect to race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and royalty.
Although promising, our confidence in these findings is low, said the VA. Researchers said in the report, which was previously noted by Psychedelic Alpha. The evidence on MDMA-assisted psychotherapy remains preliminary, and several important research questions have yet to be addressed. The inclusion of veteran populations, particularly those with combat-related trauma, with detailed reporting of treatment histories and disease severity at baseline.
Inclusion of more diverse populations, particularly with respect to race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and morality, to better understand variability in treatment effectiveness, safety, and acceptability. Evaluation of the clinical implications of discontinuing mental health medications prior to undergoing psychedelic treatment, and whether the benefits of doing so outweigh potential harms.
And use of low-dose placebo rather than OMG placebo to improve the adequacy of blinding and improved reporting of blinding effectiveness. The report's release comes amid a surge of local, state, and federal psychedelic policy developments.
Most recently, a California senator refiled a revised bill to legalize possession of certain psychedelics after his last attempt was derailed in the 11th hour of the 2022 season. An analyst published an analyst published in an American Medical Association journal this month also projected that a majority of states will legalize psychedelics by 2037. Well, I hope a heck of a lot sooner.
Yeah, that's a long way away. Meanwhile, congressional lawmakers recently released a joint explanatory statement for a must-pass defense bill that contains a directive for the military to examine the potential of plant-based therapies like cannabis and certain psychedelics for service members. The VA official told Congress in September that the government is monitoring research into the therapeutic potential of psychedelics very, very closely, but the treatment involving the substances is not yet part of the standard care for military veterans.
DEA separately released its final 2023 production quota for drugs to be used in research, and the agency is now calling for even more manufacturing of psychedelic compounds like MDMA, psilocin, and 5-MeO-DMT than the existing significant increases it had initially proposed for next year. The National Institute of Mental Health published a notice of information last month giving researchers guidance on the types of studies it's interested in funding for the development of psychedelic drugs to treat certain mental health conditions, pointing out limitations for animal-based research and rules for trials involving children. What they should really do, honestly, they want to, they want to know what this does. They seek out people like myself. And there's hundreds of us across Canada and across the US and around the world that have used psychedelic medications to improve our lives, to beat PTSD, to beat CPTSD, to beat depression, to beat opiates, to beat addictions, to beat alcohol. And honestly, they should sit down and they should interview us.
Yeah, they would.
A lot of information.
Just like they do most places, Canada and the States, they ignore us. They don't treat us equally.
They do, but it's I still have to say it every single time. If they sat down with myself and every other patient of my psychedelic practitioner, he's had over 200. Not all of us have been successes because sometimes people they try, but they just really aren't ready yet. But 90% of them have been successes. People have continued to go on with their lives, and people have continued to leave their addictions alone and haven't suffered with their PTSD and their mental injuries. And my gosh, I'm even being followed by a psychiatrist who is completely approving everything I do. And just sit down and talk to us, and you could learn so much.
Agreed.
Really. Absolutely. But I could sit here and go on like that forever. And I really should just bring up the next story and continue on. So we are heading over to the CBC. And could Amsterdam's days of cannabis capital be numbered?
Mayor attempts ban on cannabis sales to tourists as government moves to further regulate iconic coffee shops. Terrible. On an average night in Amsterdam's De Wallen district, the streets are packed with tourists, often on their worst behavior.
Yeah, this isn't the first time Amsterdam has tried to do this. We are being confronted with people vomiting, screaming, pissing, and pooping. Okay,
sorry.
Said Wellens. Until recently a resident of the district, this part of the city has only one purpose: to please the tourists. Travelers come to De Wallen, better known as the Red Light District, for many reasons: sex shows, bachelor parties, pub crawls, but one attraction has proved bigger than them all: the city's iconic coffee shops, where legal cannabis has been sold to tourists for decades.
A recent survey found that roughly half of the city's 20 million annual visitors say visiting a coffee shop is a top reason for traveling to the city, powering an industry worth nearly $1 billion. Or 1.4 billion, according to one estimate. For Wells and his advocacy group Stop the Madness, the coffee shops are a problem, contributing to the district's free-for-all party atmosphere. But they don't want to see cannabis banned. Instead, they want Amsterdam to enforce a law known as the I-Criterium, which would restrict its sale to local residents only, and it would also eliminate all tourism.
Well, they just said that half of the 20 million people, which I think they're under exaggerating. So even if we go with their number, they've just lost 10 million tourists a year.
Yeah, 10 million tourists that spend literally thousands of dollars a piece there.
Yeah, 10 million tourists that collectively spend $500 million there.
That's insane.
So, you really want to say bye-bye to all that money? I don't know.
And not only that, the coffee shop they're all the employees, all the taxes they collect off them. It's insane amount of money.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know as well as I do, some people are going to be vomiting. I mean, when the last time I greened out, I vomited pretty hard. But like, I mean, you're not going to go. I would not go peeing and pooping in the street.
I never heard of someone going out and pooping in the street. I never heard of that before.
No, and you know, I understand a little bit of greening out sometimes because you're in Amsterdam and probably have the best of the best there. But yeah, the rest of it is just a little bit crazy to blame it all on the cannabis, right?
Yeah.
Despite a petition with hundreds of supporters, a long debate at council, and the full backing of the city's mayor and police chief, the initiative failed to pass again this fall due to concerns it could lead to an explosion in the black market. Not just that, you're going to lose a crap ton of money. And yet, there's reason to believe the city's era of drug tourism may be coming to an end.
Amid a broader trend towards legalization in Europe, the Netherlands is reevaluating its relationship with cannabis and potentially upending coffee shop industry in the process. Since it was first popularized in the Netherlands by American GIs and jazz musicians, cannabis use has been legally tolerated in the country to some degree since 1970s.
Initially, the tolerance led to the proliferation of coffee shops, more than 500 at one time in Amsterdam alone. In the anarchic heyday of the 1980s, Henry Deeker, today the owner of 5 coffee shops, got his start. A wooden sheet and a few crates, that was the bar, he said. Coffee shops were really hideouts for unemployed people to rest between fights with the police. So it was quite a rebellious environment.
By the 1990s, Dutch attitudes shifted in favor of increased policing, and the coffee shop industry rapidly professionalized. Today, the type of customer is more mainstream, Decker said. We see young and old from 18 to 88, men and women. But there's a problem. Selling and consuming cannabis is legal in the Netherlands, but growing it or possessing more than half a kilo remains illegal. That makes supplying coffee shops with their products a criminal enterprise known in the Netherlands as the backdoor problem.
It's always like the cat and mouse game, said Jennison, a cannabis industry insider and founder of Greenmeister, an app which offers reviews of coffee shops and cannabis strains. Dutch cannabis dispensaries are still focused or forced to buy from the black market. According to one influential report from the city of Amsterdam, this legal gap has encouraged connections with organized crime, who find in coffee shops a convenient way to convert black market cash to legal income. There's no faster way to launder money than to have a coffee shop, says Robert Overmer, an Amsterdam resident and advocate for the I criterium.
Meanwhile, owners like Decker, who are trying to operate a legal business, take on significant risk. In 2021, he faced criminal charges and lost 45 kilograms of stock for possessing more than a 500-gram legal limit, despite his stores legally selling 10 to 20 kilos a week. That's supplying his stores, he said, is like a sort of James Bond operation we have to run every week, involving shady deals in department parking lots. Getting caught again could mean the forced closure of his stores and 70 employees suddenly out of work. Yeah, the backdoor problem is a barrier for investors too. Decker said more and more foreign companies want to buy into the market, but they want to buy the premises, the name, without being involved, he said, because the laws in the Netherlands are not up to their standards. And this story does go on for a little bit longer, but I did look at the time and realize that we are at the end of the show. We have reached our hour now, so I have to cut that one a little short. But I mean, that kind of breaks my heart that that Amsterdam would even consider that. I have not yet traveled there, and you know, what would be the purpose of traveling to Amsterdam if I can't go buy a gram of hash and sit in a coffee shop and smoke it? I love that they've been in business for 50 years, but they're still in the illegal market. Yeah. There's still some legacy going on there. But that is our show for today. So from the Legacy420.com news desk, that's our news show. We hope you found it educational, informative, and thank you to Legacy 420, Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, and to our viewers. Catch our next broadcast with Reverend Callie and Al on Monday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a absolutely lovely weekend.
Pura Vida. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.